Hi there, are you passionate about becoming a renowned chef, but a little hesitant about the compromise of your weekends, family time, or work-life balance? Well, prepare yourself for a culinary revolution. It's time to break away from the constraints of traditional culinary training and embrace the future of culinary education. Have you ever wondered how some chefs seem to land the most incredible cooking roles on the planet? It's not the luck of the draw. These epic gigs aren't just reserved for the guys with years of experience in high-end restaurants. Perhaps you've already had first-hand experience in a demanding restaurant kitchen and realised that it just doesn't justify the financial rewards and the sacrifices. Or maybe you've looked at the unattainable cost and time commitment associated with the traditional culinary training route, and that might have put you off a bit. Balancing a chef's career with a fulfilling family life can also present quite significant challenges. However, there is a far superior alternative. Today I'm going to deep dive into the two pathways to enter the catering industry so that you can discover for yourself what's actually possible. Now, this could be the turning point that really propels your career to unprecedented heights. So if you'll indulge me for the next few minutes, I'll explain how you can launch your career as a private chef in a few short weeks, and how you can quickly start earning 5k a month and then begin to chase that 100k a year salary without all of the years spent on the traditional restaurant treadmill or giving up 48 out of your 52 weekends a year. My name is Murray Slynn, and over the last 20 years not only have I used my cooking career to travel the world and earn a fortune, I've also been able to influence over 1,000 students on their own culinary journeys. However, it wasn't always like this. During my time at culinary school and later during my first few years in the restaurant industry, I worked for several companies that taught me one very important lesson. I needed to stop wasting time and losing money. Whether you own them or work for them, restaurants are an impossible business model, and I wanted to find a way to stop trading my precious hours for stress, a tiny salary, and no control over my work schedule. Now, the only way to get out of this rut, this system that traps so many people, was to become a private chef and cherry pick my gigs. I grew up in New Zealand and in 1998 started my formal training to become a chef. I spent 3 years and around 30,000 on my training, 1,400 hours at college, plus another 8,000 hours of restaurant experience, and then I was handed a sheet of paper that says that I could cook. I was working in a fast-paced kitchen where I developed really good time management skills and organisational skills, but the level of cooking was fairly basic. By the age of 22, I thought I had my life mapped out, and I just kind of resigned myself to the fact that I'd have to put all forms of private life on hold for 10 or 20 years because my chosen career was just so all-consuming. But then something mad happened. It was a Tuesday sunny morning, my usual day off for the week. I was sitting in my back garden struggling to digest a coffee after a particularly heavy night out, and the phone rings, and it's the guy that I've been out partying with the night before, and he says to me, "Something big happened last night, but I can't for the life of me remember what." So after kind of digesting this for a few moments, I said, "I think we're moving to London." Now, a month later, with 200 quid in my pocket, nowhere to stay, we landed at Heathrow Airport and this massive adventure began. Okay, I threw myself in the deep end and took a job in a London restaurant, and at that point I realised that the piece of paper that I had was worth nothing compared to the schooling that I was about to receive. In most industries, qualifications are really necessary, for being hired and as a reflection of your abilities. But in the food industry, experience is everything. I learned more in 6 months in that London restaurant than in my entire 3 years at culinary school. Now, this really got me excited about the industry, and during the next few years I started to travel with my cooking. I found myself in places like the Caribbean and working ski seasons for companies in world-class ski resorts and all of these kind of things. However, I still couldn't shake the urge to own my own restaurant, and I fell into the same trap that most other chefs do. The thing is, with restaurants, you have to have 100% of your business model right. 95% isn't good enough, and that's why most restaurants fail in their first year. Now, we had a great little 40-seat gastro pub right in the middle of a very affluent village in the UK with a great local following, and it was really exciting. We moved in, we scrubbed the place down, we put our stamp on the place, We made all of our food from scratch, we grew our own salad, we butchered our own pigs to make our own hams, and we had eggs from our own chickens, and we were working 100 hours a week, but it didn't matter. For us, it was everything we could want in a passion project. And the locals loved it. We were closed on a Monday, but fully booked from Tuesdays, and on Fridays and Saturdays we would turn away 30 to 40 people. And that was our 5% fuck up. Okay, in that first 10 months of trading, we had doubled the turnover on the previous tenants. However, simply not being able to squeeze another 15 covers on a Friday and Saturday night was the difference between earning 150k a year or walking away at the end of the first year losing 180k. Now, at this point, the opportunity arose to set up a restaurant from scratch for the owners of a cookery school that I spent a couple of years teaching at. This time it wasn't my money, so less financial risk, but ultimately also less control over how things were managed. Now, the problem with working for people who like the romantic idea of owning a restaurant is that 5% usually becomes 30%, and the losses can be 10 times greater. Okay, now I still end up working 7 days a week for an average salary, and with no time for anyone or anything outside of work, okay, which ultimately can't last forever. But then I decided to change my approach, and my disposable income 4x'd, literally from 1 week to the next. And not only that, I became completely in control of my working schedule without the stress of managing staff or worrying about paying monthly bills and all of this stuff that you just really don't need to have. I took on a huge range of roles, from festival and wedding catering, exclusive ski chalets, cruise boats, private super yachts, Mediterranean villas, cookery schools, and some of the most rustic kitchens that you can imagine in the middle of Africa, Asia and the Pacific. Now, in addition to the stunning environments I had the privilege of working in, the clients I've worked for have equally been fascinating. I've met some of the wealthiest but most unassuming businessmen on the planet, stunning supermodels and some absolutely mental actors. And these experiences are almost worth as much as the huge salaries that I was paid for the privilege. I'm now a member of a small collective of contemporary and innovative chefs who have kind of moved away from the traditional reliance on restaurants or full-time contracts just to barely make ends meet on a monthly basis. We do things a little bit differently. We do things with more efficiency. We don't spend our precious time on the restaurant treadmill. We take the jobs that we want and we leave the rest on the shelf for somebody else to mop up. We have more impact and value driven. I focus on maximizing my quality of life and freedom. And I see private chefing as a really good tool to provide me with the options to design the life of my dreams, basically. My new career path enabled me to access exclusive freedom that most chefs only fantasize about. Okay, I'm able to go on adventures with friends and attend family celebrations. Usually these things are off the cards for a restaurant chef. Now, don't get me wrong, I still work hard, really hard for my clients, but usually for only about 6 months of the year. And this is where most chefs go wrong. They create their own kind of cage and they work harder than they'd ever imagined. The hustle to become a successful restaurant chef kind of mantra really is outdated, and you need to work smarter, not harder. So this brings us to the most profound paradigm shift in modern times. The internet, and more recently COVID, has kind of broken down the traditional walls to launching a cooking career in 2 major ways. Firstly, it's given us the ability to access the global job market, meaning that we no longer need to find a job that sort of interests us from in our own geographical area, okay, or rely solely on our own direct contacts. And this can really mean that you can cherry pick the most exciting and the best paying jobs anywhere in the world, regardless of the stage of your career that you're at. Now, these opportunities are unparalleled, and more on that in a minute. Now, secondly, remote learning now offers us the opportunity to also study from anywhere in the world, slashing the eye-watering outlay for traditional culinary institute training. And furthermore, learning to cook remotely with a 1-to-1 student-tutor ratio cuts months off the traditional training timescale. So you can also study smart and not harder than you need to as well. Now, if you combine these 2 massive opportunities with a really simple business model, your chances of reaching your goals increase dramatically. And that's where the private chefing route into a career in catering comes in. Now, after 25 years of cooking across dozens of different sectors of hospitality, I haven't seen a career model that allows you to travel, stack the cash, and really dictate your own downtime as easily as working as a private chef. Okay, so let's unpack what that might look like in terms of money and time. Okay, if you start in an entry-level position in a restaurant kitchen, you'll earn about 11 to 15k per year. However, an entry-level private chef earns 150 to 180 a day. So for the same money, working full-time in a restaurant, you'd only need to work about a day or a day and a half a week as a private chef. Now, the average restaurant chef with 4 to 5 years experience makes around 20k a year, maybe 25. Whereas the private chef on the same experience level will earn kind of 20k working a day and a half a week. So it's kind of almost more like a weekend job than a full-time job. At the top end of things, a well-paid chef in the restaurant makes around 35k, maybe a little bit more. But as a private chef, you can earn that kind of money in only 4 months. Okay, and that really is the power of bypassing the restaurant industry and diving directly into the world of private chefing right from the start of your career. So is it too good to be true? Well, no, not according to the job offers that flood my inbox on a daily basis. Here's a snippet from a recent email I received from Caroline at the Good Cook Company in the UK. She works with clients all over the globe, from the Scottish Highlands to the far corners of the Mediterranean and the Caribbean. And she says, "Dear Murray, the salaries this summer have increased so much. I'm sure it's due to the shortage, but I would say in the range of 150 to 300 per day, plus accommodation, travel and food. I'd say personality is so important, and that the chefs are happy to work in an open plan kitchen, etc. Hope you're well. Chat soon, Caroline." Or this one looking for a private chef in the UK. The agent is looking for someone to work 5 days a week over 6 months of the year in a country estate house. But check out the bit at the bottom regarding salary, up to 100k depending on experience, and that's for 6 months work. Salaries have gone through the roof in the aftermath of the pandemic, and I really can't see it levelling off until there's a fresh wave of trained chefs coming into the market. There's always been a shortage of chefs, but the forced closure of every restaurant in Europe for roughly 6 months during the lockdowns has meant that a lot of chefs have taken new jobs and would now rather be packing boxes for Amazon 5 days a week than sweating it out for 80 hours a week in a restaurant. So here are the main reasons why being a private chef is the best cooking career path by far, and why so many people, even complete newbies, are finding real success with it. Number one is the low cost to start. One-to-one online training utilising your own kitchen removes the huge cost that large culinary institutes need to charge in order to maintain big facilities and train hundreds of students at the same time. You'll obviously need to invest in some basic kitchen kit, not like knives for example, but you'd have to do that anyway. Number two is to gain experience rapidly. Okay? As a private chef, you'll find yourself in a wide range of kitchens, so working through a curriculum designed specifically for private chefs from your own domestic kitchen gives you an incredibly realistic experience from day one. As every private chefing job is different, your first year will be tough, but you will learn more in that year than you would if you spent it in a restaurant peeling carrots and working on the same dishes on a daily basis. As a private chef, you need to wear all hats in the kitchens, from the guy washing up to the head chef designing the menu and doing the shopping. So you need to develop all of these skills simultaneously right from the start of your training. Chefs who gain their experience in a restaurant kitchen and then transfer to the private sector with 10 or 15 years of experience under their belt find this one of the hardest aspects to adapt to, because they're so used to being in charge of one thing at a time. Okay, and it's really possible to smoke these guys out of the water in a few short years. It's super profitable. In addition to the massive salaries I've mentioned earlier, a huge percentage of private chefing roles include accommodation, bills, food, travel costs, etc. So your wage goes directly into your pocket without wasting on irritating things like council tax, and rent. Okay, put yourself on a private yacht and you won't even need to buy a tube of toothpaste, and in some cases even pay income tax. That said, you could choose to have 9 months of the year off as well, but it is bloody easy to get used to burning through all that cash. Okay, it's evergreen and secure. It's really simple. Everybody needs to eat. There has never been enough chefs, especially in the aftermath of COVID. Agents are scrambling to fill their positions and the rates have gone through the roof, and in some cases as much as 50%. So investing in this career path is always going to be a safe bet. But it's not for everyone. Okay, some people are really suited to the traditional route into a career in catering. So let's take a look at what that would look like. The first thing is to find work in a restaurant or a hotel kitchen and work your way through the various sections of the kitchen, gaining experience as you work. You start in the sink, washing up, or at least you should. Any chef worth their salt will start here, and skipping this step is actually quite detrimental to your progression as a chef. It's a monotonous job that you can do on autopilot, but you get to watch what's going on around you and you learn a hell of a lot by osmosis. Okay, you'll work your way through the different sections, starting with the easiest and kind of the least motivating areas in the kitchen, through to the sections that carry more stress and responsibility like meat, fish and sauces. However, the kitchen isn't there for the sole purpose of training you. Okay, it's a business and it's there to make money, and it's hard to make money in restaurants. For the restaurant owner, your career progression is a convenient byproduct of him making money. So your progression through the kitchen probably isn't going to be timed as you'd imagine. If the restaurant has a high staff turnover, then you'll end up dumped in with too much stress and responsibility too early on in your career. Although if it's a good place to work and the chefs are sticking around, then you might spend a few years peeling spuds and washing spinach. Okay, you really kind of have no control over this, which is why the number of years experience a chef says that he has kind of means absolutely nothing. Okay, it's hard and repetitive work, and showing up 5, 6 or 7 days a week, working double shifts, nights and weekends for 48 weeks out of the year can be pretty soul destroying. Okay, not to mention being horrendous for having any kind of private life. And if you think that shelling out up to 50k for a kind of outdated culinary institution qualification, then if you think that's going to allow you to jump up the queue in the restaurant hierarchy, then think again, because even if you've invested 1 to 3 years at culinary school, you'll still start at the bottom of the ladder in the restaurant with everybody else. Okay. Something else that nobody will tell you is that in the catering industry, formal qualifications are just about worthless. Okay, experience, a solid work ethic, and good positive referrals are your kind of golden ticket to cherry picking the best gigs and leaving the rest on the shelf for someone else to mop up. Now, I'm not entirely writing off this route into a career in catering. It can suit some people, but as someone with 25 plus years of experience in kitchens all over the world and on both sides of this fence, I can really reflect on my own personal career and genuinely say that the private chefing route is the better path. Now, following this path right from the start of your career actually gives you the upper hand on the restaurant guys, because you're going to learn to be a self-sufficient chef that's developed your skills across all areas of the kitchen and the client-facing role all at the same time. It's a steep learning curve, but it's really worth it if you've got the drive to tackle it. And preparing you for this is precisely what the Private Chef Academy is all about. Straight for the jugular, without the endless weeks of communal cooking classes or unattainable price tags for culinary school. Our coaching is one-to-one, and the curriculum covers all of the same principles of cookery that most chefs take kind of years to work through a formal institute. I haven't had to supply a CV since 2004, and it won't be long before you don't need to look for work either. The best example I can give you is Dan. Okay, now Dan was one of my early students, and since he began training with us, he's been dipping his feet into a few different roles, including several ski seasons, villa work in the Mediterranean, a handful of short-term restaurant contracts, a 60-metre super yacht, and just this week, after roughly 5 years of cooking, he's taken a permanent role that sees him splitting his year up between a shooting lodge in the UK, a couple of private chalets in the French Alps, a villa in Corfu, and this comes with a starting salary of 80k. Once you add on the cottage, the utilities, the car, all of the other bits that come with this package, the whole thing's worth over 110 grand to him. Now, any restaurant chef with 5 years of cooking experience isn't even going to scratch the surface of a package like this, and literally never will. There's no other section in the cooking industry that can offer these packages in such a short space of time. At the other end of the scale, we've got Emma here. Just 2 or 3 months ago, she was in your shoes. She joined our program, finished the cooking modules in a few short weeks, Then 2 days later got in her car, drove to the Dordogne area in France and worked for a chateau for 7 days at 160 per day, plus travel costs. Now that €1,100 covered a chunk of her training costs and more importantly really cemented everything that she's learned during her training. With some experience you can start looking at higher paying roles like private yachts and villas, and the starting rates can be around 3,000 to 5,000 per month, and go up as high as 8,000 or 9,000 per month, but that's excluding tips. Now, in addition, you won't pay a penny for living expenses from the minute you leave your house to the minute that you return home. Even the bloody toothpaste is covered, and depending on the boat, you may be out of the country long enough to avoid income tax. Now, if this motivates you, it should. There's no reason why you can't put yourself in a position like Josh here. Okay, now Josh works on a 100-metre private yacht. His salary is $200 a day. Now he's got no living expenses while he's on board, and because he's effectively lives offshore, there's no income tax to pay on his salary. But this isn't the best part. Josh's role in the galley is a 2-month rotation contract. Okay, so he's on board for 2 months straight, and then he has 2 months holiday, and he's flown back to New Zealand by his employer. He's paid the same $200 per day for his days off as for when he's on board. Okay, so that's $73,000 for 6 months of the year. Throw in the usual annual bonus, and he's earning over $80,000 a year and having 3 2-month holidays. Now, this particular boat is a private boat, and there isn't much in the way of tips. But if he was on a busy charter yacht, then the tips are more often than not contractual. Okay, meaning that the charter agreement states a service charge for the crew, a bit like tips in a restaurant, and it's usually between 5 and 15%. So it's not uncommon for a chef to make another $1,000 a week in tips on top of their salary. Now, Josh's last 2 months on board saw him join the boat in Tahiti, come back across to Greece. By the time he disembarked for his 2 months off, he was in France. And he kicked his 2 months off by walking the Camino de Santiago in Spain, which is one of those things that a lot of people dream of doing but can never really realistically take 40 days out of their regular routine to make that happen. But let's come back to your current reality for a minute and take a look at how to put yourself in Josh's shoes. Let me introduce you to the Private Chef Academy. We've developed a bulletproof system to get your career as a private chef off the ground in a minimal amount of time and for a fraction of what some culinary institutes charge. It's a web-based program and you work from your own kitchen, and this is one of the reasons we've been able to keep the cost of the training to a minimum compared to the more formal cookery schools. However, don't make the mistake of thinking that it's simply a collection of pre-recorded videos that you can find on YouTube. Okay, it's a full-on coaching program with direct access to my help as you work through the highly distilled pathway to kickstart your career as a private chef in as little as a few weeks. Our training flexes around your individual needs, and there's no time limit for access to the course. Because we'll be personally mentoring you as you move through the program, we only ever take on 4 or 5 students at once. So if you're watching this training at the moment, the enrollment window is open, but it will close as soon as those few valuable spots are taken. Our coaching program cuts out all of the unnecessary padding and time wasting of a Culinary Institute course, and it gives you the advantage of the apprenticeship style training that you would get from a hotel or the restaurant industry, except you have control over your diary, so you aren't chained to 70-hour weeks and working 48 weekends a year and all of this kind of stuff. Plus, you'll be out earning 4, 5 or even 6 times the income right from day one. So let me break it down a bit so that you can see how your new career path is going to look if you decided to join us for the journey today. First and foremost, the 2 of us will jump on a Zoom call. Okay, we'll discuss your situation and your aspirations. It's really vital that I get an understanding of where you are currently, where you want to go, and how quickly you want to get there. Okay, this helps me to tailor my feedback and advice as we go along, and it really kind of forms the foundation of your progression. The next is phase 1 of the course. Okay, I need to teach you how to cook from scratch with real ingredients. Now, it'll only take around a week or so to work through the introduction module to get you and your kitchen ready for action. Once you're ready to start, there are 10 cooking days, and these are very, very busy days, and they're set up to give you a feeling of what it's like to work as a private chef. Okay, you'll invite a handful of guests for dinner, We'll treat it like a proper private chef role. This is probably the steepest part of the learning curve, okay? And my advice would be to plunge headfirst into this and try and do 1 or 2 cooking days at a time with a day off in between to reflect and relax and shop for the next cooking day. Okay, so it's actually possible to smash this section out in as little as a couple of weeks if you're pushing hard, but you don't have to. Okay, you can work it around your own schedule. For example, if you've still got a full-time job, you might do 1 cooking day each weekend and take 10 weeks to finish. It's completely up to you. There's no time limit. Now, phase 1 of the program finishes with a menu planning assignment, so we can get you ready to start looking for clients and to get you out earning as soon as possible. So if you're in the position to work on this full-time and get out the door earning straight away, you could have phase 1 completed in roughly a month, as Emma did. Remember, her first job earned her $1,100 plus tips, and she's currently booking in work for the coming winter at $270 a day on average. Now, next is phase 2. This is where we focus on setting you up as a professional freelancer. We'll build you a professional website like this one of Emma's with your own URL and email, so it looks nice and professional, none of this Gmail bollocks. Now, I'll give you all the templates you'll need for keeping your accounts and invoicing and advice on charging and costing and all of these kind of things, and we'll help you to find work via our network of agents and contacts. So during this time, you'll be taking on jobs that you like the look of. You'll build your experience and a list of trusted clients, and most of the time the jobs will be so successful that the client will book you again. So it's not long before your diary really kind of starts filling itself, and you're able to cherry pick the roles that suit you instead of panicking that you haven't got enough work coming in. During this phase, we'll also look at some more advanced techniques in the kitchen, okay, to keep you progressing and developing your cooking repertoire. Now, because there's lifetime access to phase 2, this phase is ongoing, and you'll be able to access our chefs community and our ever-increasing range of tools and support as we develop your career. Now, these months and years really are about taking on the roles that you like and leaving the rest of the restaurant industry crap for someone else, okay? During these years, you should be making the most of taking on roles in all sections of catering and across the entire planet. Okay, working hard, earning a fortune, and traveling the globe for free. And then there's phase 3, for those that want it, okay? It's not for everybody, and some people stay in phase 2 their entire lives. Actually, some people wish they had. But the beauty of that is that you can always return to phase 2 at any point, okay? Knowing there is a phase 3 is what gives you the security that a normal life can be an option as a chef. Okay, at some point in your life, you'll probably like the idea of settling down a bit. Maybe you want to start a family and be present for your kids. Maybe you're a bit over the traveling, okay, and you just want to be in one place for a bit. Whatever the reason is, it's good to keep phase 3 in mind, okay, as you progress through your journey. During the phase 2 years, you'll develop close ties with your private clients. You know, the ones that you like working for and the ones that you have respect for. These jobs are always enjoyable, and these are the clients that show they have respect for you, and that you're not just a help, you know, but you're a crucial part of their lives. And this is where private chefing really kind of comes full circle. Okay, ultimately, you end up with a full-time job offer from one of these clients, okay, like Dan did. Now, you kind of get these offers all the time, but these are the ones that are really special and kind of like the one that you've been waiting for, okay? For Dan, after 5 years of cooking, that looks like 110 grand a year, including his own 2-bedroom cottage, his own car supplied, and he still gets to follow the clients out to the Alps for skiing and the Med in the summer. So this is the Private Chef Academy system. Once we know that we're a good match to work together, there are 3 simple phases. And we'll have you out earning faster than any culinary training institute in the world, and earning 4 or 5 or 6 times the salary of the restaurant industry. Okay, so just to recap on what we've talked about today, the common beliefs about learning to cook can be summed up like this. You go to culinary school for 1 to 4 years, you get your shiny certificate, and you're entitled to walk into any kitchen halfway at the pecking order on a good salary. After a few years, you set up your own successful restaurant and you start to print money. Then you enter the MasterChef competition, and then you spend the rest of your time driving a Range Rover around the UK celebrating your fame. But in reality, learning to cook looks a lot more like this. You go to culinary school for 1 to 4 years, years, you rack up a huge student debt. Nobody cares about your certificate. It's no guarantee that you can deliver. You join your first kitchen at the same level as the guy that's just left high school. 10 years experience might get you a 35 grand a year salary, and you'll finally consider the private chefing route because the money just seems so good. So from wherever you're watching today, you have two options. One, you can go it alone, find a restaurant or a hotel to work in, slowly gaining experience and building up a career that will it'll take up all of your spare time. Okay, eventually after 10 or 15 years, you'll probably be making around 35k. And if you're planning to fork out 15 to 50 grand for a Culinary Institute training, you'll experience a bit more training, but ultimately the end result will be the same. Or you can let us hold your hand as you jump into the deep end and kick off your career in the next few months. Okay, you won't have to worry about missing that special wedding or birthday that's coming up, or if you've got tickets to your favorite concert that you'll need to sell because the restaurant you're working in just can't give you the time off. Okay, you won't have to worry about that stuff. With our program, you'll be trained to operate professionally with integrity and deliver a standard that stands out from the rest, okay, without needing to drag in a huge student loan into your new career or spend a fortune on accommodation near the chosen culinary college. There are no questions about whether this process works. It's worked for me and it's worked for all of my previous graduates, so the real question is, will you make it work for you? Okay, the biggest challenge people face when they're considering jumping into the deep end, regardless of what the new challenge might be, is their limiting beliefs. Why would someone pay me to cook for them? I'm not really an expert. I haven't been to culinary school. First, you need to understand that credibility is all about perception. What do Christopher Nolan, Quentin Tarantino, and Steven Spielberg have in common? They never went to film school. Okay? But if you create something that people love, then that is credibility. Catering qualifications don't carry a lot of weight, but your ability to help someone create a memorable occasion is priceless, and you will be in demand. Thinking we're not worthy is often called imposter syndrome. Now, Wikipedia says imposter syndrome is a psychological pattern in which an individual doubts their skills, talents, or accomplishments and has a persistent internalized fear of being exposed as a fraud. Now, I'm absolutely guilty of that. I spent 25 years in kitchen environments where you start off as a small fish in a big pond. Okay, then you work your way up to be the big fish. Next thing you know, you find yourself in the next big pond and the whole process starts again. Okay, now I think it's really important to understand that this is cyclical. Okay, it's a cyclical process and it never ends. Regardless of how much experience you gain, understanding this early on and making a huge effort to embrace it is the thing that sets you free from that fear and allows you to enter new challenges with a real surge of adrenaline and excitement. The first time I stepped foot on a brand new $20 million motor yacht, so new she was still sitting on the dry dock being painted, I was asked to help finish off the installation of the galley, okay, and I seriously considered jumping overboard. As the launch day approached, the captain told me, you don't need to worry about a menu because the owner will just decide what he wants to eat on the day, okay? Just go shopping, make sure you've got everything on board that he could possibly want. We'll be at sea for 8 days straight, okay, with no access to shops. Now, I felt like a small fish clinging to the side of the bloody Atlantic, okay? But I overcame this limiting belief, and because of that, I was able to achieve a success that season and have a really positive experience, and it gave me the momentum. And by the end of that summer, I walked away with an extra month's pay as a bonus. Okay, you don't have to be the most experienced person in the kitchen. Ideally, there'll always be somebody around, or a few people around, that know a bit more than you do, and that's ideal. Learn from them. So ask yourself, are you willing to become successful? Let go of your limiting beliefs and take action. This is by far the hardest part of all, believe me. If you want to become a dentist, there's a clear path that you must follow, okay? And to become a dentist, nobody ever really questions that path, but rather questions their determination to become one. The same goes for a 100k private chefing career. The system is there, it works, but can you commit to going down that path? By the way, creating a six-figure private chef career is a lot easier than becoming a dentist. However, you will need to meet some criteria though, because this program is not for everybody. Okay, so who is this program for? Well, importantly, It's for people who are willing to take action, jump on opportunities and implement things right away. It's for people who are open to trying a more efficient and unconventional new ways of training as a chef. And it's for people who are willing to invest in themselves, their business, and their future to confidently get results. So who is it not for? This program is not designed for and will not work for people who make excuses, complain, or are not committed. It also won't work for people who are stuck in information gathering mode and aren't prepared to take action or get results. It's not for people who are in the victim mode and don't take control of their own destiny. And it's not for people who don't want to invest in order to get results. Now, knowing that we're a good fit is really crucial, okay? Because I like to work closely with my students and get a great result for them as quickly as I can and a quick return on their investment. Okay, so if you want to learn how to become a top chef, chase a 100k salary, and manage your own diary and travel the world for free, then let's talk. Over the next 7 days, I've set aside some time for you to see if we can help. We'll talk for roughly 30 minutes and I'll map out the exact action plan for you to follow based on your own situation. And of course, I can answer any other kind of questions that you might have. There's absolutely no obligation to join the program. It's more important to work out if we would be a good fit to work together or not. Okay, and to show you that I'm committed to not wasting your time, I'm even going to offer you a free digital copy of the course book, okay, the one that our students work with. Now, this book isn't just any other cookbook. It's got QR codes that give you instant access to the 100 or so video demonstrations that we use to train our students to cook. Okay, so even if we agree that you aren't a good fit for our program or you're not interested in signing up, then I'll at least leave you with a token to be inspired in the kitchen. So that's basically all I wanted to cover with you today. All you need to do for now is tap the schedule call button below this video. It'll take you to my calendar, okay? And you can find time that suits you best for us to chat. I'm going to hang out for a bit longer and answer a few questions, the ones that I get from people all the time who are considering our program. How do I get started? I can't imagine charging £500 a day for my cooking. Well, a company manager that I work for occasionally in Switzerland recently said to me that she was told by one of the agents that she uses that the going rate for high-level private chefs is £400 to £600 a day, which is insane. Okay, it's never been this high, but obviously this is kind of where the salaries top out, and you'd need to be fairly experienced to pick up these kinds of gigs. However, as we discussed earlier, agency rates for entry-level cooking are in the ballpark of 150 to 180 a day, which is equally incredible in my opinion. I think it's important to remember that when you're getting started, having a positive experience is more important than money, okay? As your skills and confidence grow, with every meal you send out, your confidence for charging will also grow as well, believe me. Another great way to get things rolling is to take ad hoc work with catering companies. These companies have loads of sporadic work available, but not enough consistent work to make it worth hiring somebody on a full-time basis. Okay, and a massive benefit from these jobs is that you'll be working along a huge range of more experienced chefs, and these guys can help you build your confidence, your experience, and your repertoire without falling into the full-time restaurant trap. Will I get a formal qualification at the end of my course? Well, unless you attend a government-certified college, most cookery establishments, including our academy, offer a certificate of completion, okay, stating that you've met the requirements to pass the course. However, the weight of these certificates really comes down to the school's reputation, so a personal reference from a former employee or a mentor carries a lot more weight than a random certificate. Likewise, the list of experience on your CV and your visual portfolio usually is what gets you employed. Potential clients and agencies tend to take formal qualifications with a pinch of salt, okay, because it's no guarantee of the chef's actual abilities. And actually, in fairness, they're not really in a position to be that picky either. Do you guarantee the course? Absolutely. I know from experience that students need to get their careers moving quickly after they've finished the course, and that a course like this is quite an investment to make in your future, so you need to be certain that it's going to be the right thing for you. So I'll make you a deal. There's no reason why a person that jumps into our course head first with the intention of hitting the ground running can't earn $5,000 within 3 months, okay, of joining the program. However, we offer 6 months of free WhatsApp support from the point that you finish the training phase of the course, okay, and start working. If you haven't made 10,000 euros during that 6 months, then we'll extend the support and keep working closely with you until you've made double your investment back. What is the startup cost? Do I need a lot of money? Well, no. When I started private chefing roles, I was basically broke from all the travelling. Okay, I'd just come back from a month backpacking around Europe, and I was kind of grateful to land a couple of weeks' work in the north of England, bailing out a small gastropub, okay, whose chef was on sick leave. It meant a quick cash injection and a roof over my head until my first winter season contract started. As with any training, you'll need some money, but not a lot. Okay, our one-on-one coaching is a lot more effective, a lot more efficient than going to a sizable culinary institution, so the initial fees are much less. In addition, I'd say plan to use a few £100 getting some equipment together, but if you really keep it lean and don't waste money on the wrong gadgets, it's nothing like the setup cost of a catering company or a restaurant or something like that, for example. The only other cost will be around $800 to $1,000 in total for food for the cooking days. However, if money is a bit of a stretch, you can always sell seats for your cooking evenings. Most of the recipes feed 8 people, so for a tenner a head, you can at least make the cost of the food back. Actually, I highly recommend that you do this and have people for dinner on the days that you cook. It's such a valuable opportunity to gain hands-on experience as to what it feels like to cook for paying clients and to get honest feedback. Okay, it adds that kind of pressure that you'll experience once you're out and working, and it keeps you on track with your timings, as it's not just about the cooking. If you follow every step that I teach, I'll help you to make that money back and plenty more within the first few months following your course. Surely you can't give me feedback without tasting my food. Well, actually, you'd be surprised just how much I can tell from a clear picture. I'm very good at giving feedback from photos, and I can pull all sorts of details out, like whether a piece of meat is overcooked or undercooked, the temperature of your oven or your frying pan, if it was too hot or too cold, or if you've used enough oil in the pan, how well reduced or mounted your sauces, and even to a degree how much seasoning you've got in the dish. Okay, so I use Lim videos to screen share photos that you've sent to me and analyze each component of the dish. I'll highlight the successful aspects of the dish, and I'll let you know how you could improve the weaker aspects of the dish. So having this feedback as you go along really helps to accelerate your development, okay, because you can implement the feedback for the very next cooking day. I haven't done much cooking. Will I struggle to work through the course because of that? Well, a huge part of my program focuses on teaching you how to cook from scratch. And in some cases, not having much experience will actually be an advantage, as you won't have had a chance to learn bad habits, okay, that could need to be changed before you can move forward. Now, all that's required is to be super interested in food and creating food that people will love. If you work through the earlier modules of the course thoroughly before you start the cooking days, you'll have all the information you'll need. And the beauty of an online course is that if something isn't clear or you forget how to do something, you can just watch it again. You can't have that with live demos. Why should I work with you? Well, obviously you don't have to. It's more crucial that you find a mentor that you're going to gel with. Okay, so it's absolutely up to you to decide whether or not you think we'd be a good fit to work together, but I know how to get results. I've been working in hospitality for more than 25 years, and I've been teaching cooking for nearly 18. But more important than how long is the variety in my experience. I've learned from my mentors, so I know what they teach, I've tested it, and I have my own insights, okay? But if there's one thing I love besides cooking, snowboarding, and traveling, it's helping people to build successful careers in the catering industry. It's a passion, and it's not just a venture to make more money. At some point, it's not just about money anymore, okay? It's about fun and finding a purpose. And more people ask for advice, which is why we've decided to move our school online and create a coaching program to help more people on a larger scale. But in the end, you must feel good about it, so the decision is totally up to you, obviously. How much time do I need to invest per week? Well, this totally depends on how fast you want to get results and how much time you've got available. Another advantage of an online course is that you can work around your own schedule. Okay, so even if you have a job or other responsibilities to work around, you can still fit the program into your schedule. You could take a few weeks and smash out the whole course in one go, or you might only be able to work at the weekends. It's totally up to you. There is so much free content about learning to cook. Why would anyone buy an online cookery course? Well, this is a pretty common misconception. Okay, first of all, there's a lot of free content out there that offers bad advice or is produced by inexperienced freelancers. For example, freelancers who create SEO content or content that's designed to generate clicks on YouTube. Okay, now most people don't want to waste time wading through all of this type of content to get to the good stuff. And if they do, it really kind of leaves them with scattered, disjointed information. The real value in the course is guidance from an expert, active help when you need it, and more importantly, a clear pathway through consistent information, which saves a lot of time and effort. Also, there's loads of resources to keep you on track when you feel a little bit lost. If I have specific questions, would I be able to email you those questions? Absolutely. Any questions you have can be included in your request for feedback emails that you'll send in with your photos of your dishes. Once you've completed the course, I'll stay at your disposal for a few months via WhatsApp so you can have the support that you need as you get your career moving. And then there's our private mastermind Facebook group as well, so you really are in good hands. For me, that's what separates this program from so many other educational options, having personal access to practicing professionals who can help you overcome the stumbling blocks and really kind of shorten the learning curve. And speaking of questions, hopefully I've answered most of yours during this training. If I didn't, then all you need to do is tap that schedule now button below this video. Okay, it'll take you to my calendar and you can find time for us to have a chat. Okay, so that's it. I'm out. Thanks for stopping by, and if you really want to jump into this wonderful career, I really look forward to meeting you soon.